Aquarius' invisible cage. Why the visionary soul endures the agony of isolation.
Dear Aquarius, the truth we must confront about you is far heavier, far more profound than any surface-level description of eccentricity or detachment could ever suggest. We know you as the visionary. We celebrate the aura of progress, brilliance, and radical freedom that defines your sign. You are the archetype of the future, the one who imagines the world not as it is, but as it could be. You are the Waterbearer, a figure of endless generosity, pouring out wisdom, clarity, and life-giving truths upon a thirsty world. But I am here today not to praise the light you cast, but to speak of the dark truth, the profound, invisible burden you carry. A silent struggle against an inner reality that makes you feel like an exile in your own life. Why does the sign tasked with humanity's liberation often seem to endure its deepest, most archetypal pain? Why is the soul dedicated to tomorrow so often haunted by a fundamental loneliness today? The comfort you project, the cool, intellectual distance that keeps the world at bay, has quietly become an invisible cage. It is not a dramatic failure you can point to. Rather, it is a persistent tension you've mistaken for strength, the relentless effort to hold yourself apart. This journey is about uncovering the cosmic weight that rests upon your shoulders, a weight that is not just your own, but the burden of the collective you are here to serve. It's about recognizing that your suffering is not random, but sacred. It is an initiation. We must look past the superficial descriptions and delve into the esoteric, the psychological, and the karmic layers of your existence. This is where everything will finally click into place. If you leave early, you risk missing the most enlightening insights you've ever encountered about your own hidden worth. Right now, I urge you to take a moment and drop this affirmation in the comments below. I, Aquarius, choose to allow my truth to emerge, even if it brings a moment of unsettling clarity. Stay with me until the end, for the final revelations are the most profound. The paradox of the Waterbearer, pouring and parched. Let's rewind to the beginning, because the very symbol of your sign conceals the source of your profound agony. You are the Waterbearer, and this image, a noble figure holding aloft a great vessel, pouring forth its contents, appears to be a symbol of limitless, unconditional service, a vision of benevolence and endless supply. But look closer, dear Aquarius. Notice the paradox. The Waterbearer is pouring endlessly for others. They offer wisdom, they offer clarity, they offer the currents of spiritual knowledge that can transform the human condition. Yet the figure itself is not drinking from the vessel. They remain fundamentally unrefreshed by the very waters they carry. This is the first layer of your dark truth. Aquarius exists not for personal fulfillment alone, but as a consecrated channel of truth for humanity. Your deepest emotions, your most vulnerable needs, are often instinctively suppressed, poured out for the collective good, but never retained for your own nourishment. This service, while deeply noble, is also exhausting. It is the reason so many Aquarians carry an invisible wound that few can ever see, a feeling of being chronically parched while standing next to a flowing river. Ask yourself, How many times have you been the one giving the best advice, sharing the profound, objective insight that liberates a friend, a partner, or a group, only to return to a private, silent space and realize you have none left for yourself? It stems from that core vow, that soul-level memory. My life is not for me, it is for the cause. The water in that vessel is not literal H2O, Aquarius. It represents divine truth, cosmic wisdom, and radical awakening. To carry this kind of knowledge is to exist in a liminal space, to be too human to escape suffering, yet too awakened to pretend that ordinary life is simple. This tension is your crucifixion and your crown. You are the servant who has been chosen to bring light to the desert of humanity's ignorance, even at the cost of your own emotional sustenance. Do you ever feel a restless urge to solve the world's problems while silently neglecting the smallest, most personal need of your own heart? That is the Waterbearer's paradox at work. That is the soul's longing for its own cup to be filled while the endless duty to pour continues. This initial suffering is the agony of carrying water you cannot drink. It is the deep, spiritual exhaustion of unacknowledged sacrifice, the invisible cage of alienation. If the water-bearer reveals your sacrifice, then the wound of alienation explains why you so often feel like a stranger in your own home, in your own body, and in your own life. This, perhaps, is the deepest scar carried by the Aquarian soul. From an early age, dear Aquarius, you sensed a dissonance. You moved to a rhythm no one else seemed to hear. You spoke a language no one else seemed to understand. Whether in your family, your social circles, or even your workplace, you look around and realize, I do not fit here. This sense of being fundamentally different is not a flaw in your personality. It is the absolute ground upon which your destiny is built. Psychologically, this is the profound pain of individuation. The great thinker Carl Jung spoke of this agony, that to become who you truly are often requires enduring a profound isolation, a necessary departure from the comforting norms of the collective. For you, Aquarius, this individuation is not a path you choose later in life. It is the destiny you were born with. Your mind, your instincts, and your entire energetic field pull you toward the unconventional, the future-oriented, the radical. But how often has the world responded to your uniqueness with misunderstanding, rejection, or even ridicule? This rejection hardens into the hidden loneliness you carry. You may be surrounded by people, yet you feel unseen. You are part of communities, yet you sense you are not truly included. Even in the closest relationships, a subtle, invisible wall seems to prevent you from being fully understood. To the outside world, this translates into an appearance of detachment or aloofness. But, dear Aquarius, this detachment is, in reality, a protective shell built against the constant, raw ache of never fully belonging. When did you begin to associate your difference with threat? When did you learn that your uniqueness came at the cost of genuine human warmth? You learned that to show the full measure of your radical self was to risk being cast out. And so, you built your fortress of intellect, an unyielding persona crafted to survive in a world that punished your originality. But this alienation is not random. It is karmic. Your soul chooses environments where you are destined to feel different, because alienation itself is the crucible that shapes your higher purpose. It forces you to cultivate the courage to live authentically. Without this deliberate isolation, you might dissolve into the collective and lose the unique voice the world so desperately needs. The danger, of course, is that you internalize this rejection, carrying it as a deep-seated self-doubt, believing that you are unworthy of intimacy. You either hide your true nature, silently dying inside, or you swing to the opposite extreme, embracing rebellion so fiercely that you burn every bridge to human connection. Both are symptoms of the same wound, the pain of being different in a world that perpetually demands conformity. But here is the liberating truth. The very wound that isolates you is your greatest gift to the world. Your ability to see outside the system, to think beyond accepted limits, and to embody the archetype of the exile grants you a vantage point no insider could ever possess. Like the prophet standing in the desert, your voice rings with authority precisely because you stand apart. Your alienation is not a mistake in your story. It is the furnace that forges your vision. To understand Aquarius is to recognize that loneliness and brilliance are two sides of the very same precious coin. The cosmic tension, Saturn's chain and Uranus's lightning. If alienation is the personal wound, then the true depth of your suffering lies in the cosmic weight placed upon your shoulders, the collective karma governed by your two profoundly contradictory rulers. Unlike most signs with a relatively singular focus, Aquarius is governed by two forces that ensure your journey will never be simple. Saturn, your ancient ruler, and Uranus, your modern ruler. Together, they create a paradoxical tension that makes your life the ultimate evolutionary battlefield. First, there is Saturn, the great taskmaster of the Zodiac. Saturn represents discipline, responsibility, restriction, and karmic debt. Under Saturn's enduring influence, you are burdened with lessons of endurance and hardship. Saturn insists that nothing comes easily. Everything must be earned through trial. This explains why so many Aquarians face obstacles that seem disproportionate to their efforts. You are asked to hold the line of responsibility not just for yourself, but for the entire groups, families, or communities you serve. Saturn chains you to duty, often leaving you exhausted. Yet in a cruel twist of fate, it also strengthens your spirit through that very suffering. Then there is Uranus, the great awakener and disruptor. Uranus rules sudden change, upheaval, radical breakthroughs, and chaos. Where Saturn binds you with chains of duty, Uranus shatters those chains with a bolt of lightning. This dual rulership creates a life of perpetual extremes, stability constantly tested by chaos. What appears to the world as an unstable or chaotic life path, marked by abrupt shifts, unexpected losses, or radical self-reinvention, is actually Uranus pushing you into necessary evolution. Aquarius, this tension is why you feel so torn. You are called to awaken humanity, yet you often feel like an outcast in your own story. You are not only processing your own lessons, you are carrying the collective burdens, the generational wounds of your family, the societal patterns that are ripe for change. Your suffering becomes symbolic of humanity's struggle to move from bondage, Saturn, into liberation, Uranus. This is your mission, to bridge the old and the new. Your soul incarnates with the task of enduring the trials of Saturn while ushering in the revolutionary revelations of Uranus. The result is that your life is the battlefield where these cosmic forces collide. But here lies the second, most profound paradox. The very suffering you endure is the source of your unique power. Saturn's chains force you to cultivate resilience, patience, and maturity. Uranus's shocks awaken your genius, originality, and vision. While the weight of collective karma may feel unbearable, it is precisely this burden that forges you into the leader, the innovator, and the truth bearer you are destined to be. Your trials are not just personal, they are archetypal. The dark truth, then, is not that you are weak, but that you are tasked with carrying the burdens of both the past and the future. Your exile is not meaningless. It is the initiation that grants you the authority to pour the water of truth upon the world, the fortress of the heart, love and distance. We must now turn to the matters of the heart, because this is where the fortress of your intellect often reveals its most painful cracks. Popular astrology frequently paints Aquarius as detached, aloof, or emotionally cold. But this is the superficial mask, the defense mechanism of a deeply wounded soul. Beneath the intellectual brilliance and the visionary energy lies a heart that longs for profound connection, yet struggles desperately to open fully to it. This struggle is not due to a lack of feeling. On the contrary, Aquarius feels deeply. But love itself touches your greatest vulnerabilities. It threatens the fortress of self-reliance you have so meticulously built. Just as with the symbolic vessel, in relationships, you are a giver by nature. You pour wisdom, energy, and objective support into those you love. But how often do you find yourself in relationships that are fundamentally unbalanced? You give more than you receive, leaving you drained, unseen, and unappreciated. Your suffering in love is tied directly to this imbalance, a painful mirror of your broader karmic role, serving others at the expense of yourself. The wound of alienation bleeds directly into your intimacy. Having grown accustomed to feeling different and misunderstood, you guard your deepest emotions, fearing, with a chilling certainty, that true vulnerability will only lead to catastrophic rejection. You convince yourself that distance is protection, but the paradox is cruel. The more you protect yourself, the lonelier you feel. Astrologically, we see this tension played out by your rulers once more. Saturn builds walls, boundaries, and a fear of rejection, making you cautious and perhaps even cynical in love. Uranus brings sudden sparks, magnetic attractions, and equally sudden breakups, leaving you confused about your own capacity for stability and permanence. The cycle itself becomes a source of suffering, intense passion followed by abrupt distance, deep connection shattered by shocking disruption. This constant upheaval leaves many Aquarians feeling cursed in love. Yet, this emotional agony is not meaningless. It is another form of initiation. Aquarius is being trained to experience a higher form of love, one that is not based on possession, conformity, or the comfortable merging of boundaries. but on freedom and authenticity. Your spiritual path demands that you remain true to your unique individuality, while also opening the door to genuine emotional connection. This is the profound surrender you must face. You are asked to learn to merge individuality with intimacy. Your higher lesson is that true intimacy does not require you to sacrifice your unique self. Rather, it calls you to share it fearlessly. The dark truth is that you suffer in love not because you are incapable of intimacy, but because you are being trained to transcend ordinary bonds. Your heartbreak is the sacred teaching in vulnerability, authenticity, and balance, forging a revolutionary kind of partnership that honors both personal freedom and collective growth. The prophet's initiation, exile as destiny. To truly grasp why your suffering is so profound, we must leave the realm of personality and enter the esoteric realm where symbols become living archetypes. In this space, Aquarius is not merely an eccentric visionary. You are the initiate, the exile, and the truth-teller, whose very pain is a spiritual rite of passage. In ancient traditions, the Waterbearer was linked to those who carried forbidden knowledge. They were chosen not for ease, but for a terrible responsibility, to bear the water of truth, destined to endure exile, mockery, and punishment from those unwilling or unable to receive it. Consider the myth of Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods to give it to humanity. For his defiance, he was bound and tormented endlessly. Prometheus is the purest symbol of Aquarian suffering, punished for the gift, exiled for the compassion, condemned for the vision. Like him, you carry a light that humanity desperately needs, yet you often pay a heavy personal price for its delivery. Your suffering is not incidental. It is the cost of your initiation into higher service. This is why your life often feels harsher than others. You may envy the comfort of those who seem to belong easily, love easily, and live easily. Yet beneath this longing is the deeper knowing that your soul did not come here for ease. It came here to remember, to awaken, and to serve. Esoterically, your suffering serves a critical purpose. In stripping you of false comforts, life forces you to root your identity not in approval or belonging, but in truth itself. Every exile becomes an initiation. Every heartbreak becomes a teaching. Every rejection becomes a refinement of your soul. Your wounds, though agonizing, are the doorway through which wisdom enters. That pain is what matures into your unparalleled vision. Your isolation is what hardens into your unshakable strength. You are Prometheus bound, a prophet in exile, a visionary ahead of your time. Your trials are not meaningless. They are sacred rites through which the Aquarian soul earns the authority to pour water upon the thirsty world. The alchemical turning point, the gifts of the wound. Up to this point, we have explored the archetypal sorrow, the Waterbearer's paradox, the exile's pain, the cosmic weight. But now we arrive at the crucial turning point in the story, the hidden treasure buried within the pain. Your suffering, dear Aquarius, is not a dead end. It is alchemical. It transforms into the very force that shapes your greatest gifts. The first hidden gift born from your agony is unrivaled vision. Because you live perpetually at the edge of belonging, you are able to see what others cannot. Your suffering has sharpened your perception, allowing you to notice injustices, hypocrisies, and possibilities that go unseen by those comfortably immersed in the system. What feels like exile from the collective is actually an unmatched vantage point. From the outside, you glimpse the futures, the innovations, and the radical truths that conformity blinds others to. The pain of alienation is the key that opens the eye of vision. The second gift is indestructible resilience. Saturn's chains and Uranus's shocks have battered your spirit repeatedly, but through these trials, you develop a strength that cannot be manufactured any other way. This is not the brittle strength of denial. It is the refined resilience of a soul that has been broken down, rebuilt, and forged in the fire many times over. The Aquarian survivor is a rare kind of soul, wounded yet unbroken, scarred yet still luminous. Your suffering becomes a silent testimony to endurance, inspiring others simply by your continued authentic existence. The third gift is authentic compassion. In youth, you may have reacted to pain with intellectual detachment or cynical rebellion. But as you mature, you realize that your suffering has granted you deep insight into the wounds of others. You recognize the lonely, the misunderstood, and the brokenhearted because you have been all of those things yourself. From this recognition arises a compassion that is profound and earned, not sentimental or theoretical. When you offer empathy, it comes from a place of lived truth. And perhaps the greatest hidden gift is ultimate liberation. By carrying pain that is archetypal, you eventually discover that your suffering was never purely personal. It was a mirror of humanity's struggle, condensed into your own single life. This realization sets you free, no longer trapped in the illusion that your wounds mean you are cursed. You begin to see yourself as an alchemist, one who turns poison into medicine, exile into vision, and wounds into wisdom. Esoterically, this liberation is symbolized by the Waterbearer finally drinking from the vessel. In the beginning, you suffered because you poured endlessly without drinking. But once you awaken to these hidden gifts, you learn the new truth. The vessel does not run dry when used properly. It overflows. Your suffering teaches you the essential balance of boundaries, self-nourishment, and reciprocity, allowing you to serve the collective without simultaneously destroying your own soul. This is the alchemy of your sign, turning suffering into sacred service, loneliness into wisdom, and wounds into the waters of life. The final liberation, choosing the true self. And so, we arrive at the final, most significant moment of all. We are no longer discussing open wounds or hidden pain. We are talking about what remains when all of that dissipates. The ultimate truth that rises when there is nothing left to cling to. You are no longer the child who had to be still to avoid chaos. You are no longer the one who silenced their desires to preserve a false sense of peace. Today, you are an adult with power, with a voice, and with the sacred right to choose differently. You've become accustomed to self-reliance like it is a protective shield. But that shield also kept new life at bay. Now you comprehend. You don't need to be invulnerable to earn respect. You don't have to conceal your emotions to be loved. You don't have to carry more than what is genuinely yours. You finally know that you are enough, not because of what you achieve, not because of how much you endure, but simply because you exist, because you feel, because you are alive. And that, dear Aquarius, is the ultimate freedom. Something has profoundly shifted within you. It's an inner revolution, a transformation that may not be visible on the outside, but it alters everything. Because now you are someone new, someone who no longer betrays their own needs, someone who no longer silences their truth to spare others discomfort. This is your moment to choose yourself, and this is not an act of selfishness. It is the most profound act of healing you can offer the world. When you choose yourself, the entire landscape shifts. A new cycle begins. Answers that were once elusive suddenly become clear because you are no longer operating from a place of hurt. You are creating from love for yourself. You will learn to say no without guilt, to say yes without fear, to stop fighting for things that do not embrace you, and to stop pleading for spaces that no longer welcome you. You will look in the mirror and finally see yourself through clear, compassionate eyes. You will recognize that you are not your mistakes, not your scars, not your possessions. You are the one who persevered, who broke and rose again, who dared to feel when it would have been simpler to shut down. The dark truth is not meant to frighten or condemn you, Aquarius. It is meant to honor you, to honor the unseen burdens you carry, the sacrifices you make, and the invisible battles you fight. In the end, the Aquarian path is not about endless suffering. It is about transmutation. It is about turning exile into wisdom, wounds into compassion, and struggle into liberation. You suffered the most, yes, but it is precisely through that suffering that you became what you were always meant to be: the visionary, the healer, and the liberator for a world in desperate need of your water. You are the one who chooses now. Are you ready to blossom without fear?